of other countries. The recognition of that sovereignty gives a country equality in dealing with us, and it gives a country the confidence and the authority to speak back to us. So I would argue, without going into greater detail, that sovereignty is probably one of the most important elements that we have in diplomacy.
I have a thought on that also. I agree with what Linda said. But going back to your opening comments about the drafting of the UN Charter, sort of we the peoples of the United Nations, that was a very powerful evocation that Secretary General Kofi Annan used when he was attacking the concept of absolute state sovereignty and justifying the going after governments that were hurting their own people, violating the human rights of their own people, and trying to hide behind the concept of absolute state sovereignty. So there is a limit. I agree that sovereignty does generate a sense of political self and theoretically establishes the basis for dignity and respect. And certainly we have been, in recent years, walking all over sovereign nations as the sole remaining superpower. But it cannot be used as the protection of governments, and the international community has a moral obligation, as Kofi Annan felt very strongly about, to go after governments that are hurting their own people. They can't hide behind that. So there are two sides to that.
I have a comment about it. I think Jeff Baldwin had a comment called achieving the country. He's talking about race, but I think it works in an international affairs. If sovereignty means we're going to operate in the preservation of our self-interest only, that's one thing. If sovereignty means we're going to try to achieve a higher purpose, a hope, the greater good, it is enough.
In terms of the choice of people, here is a difficult question, but I think gets to the heart of reality and the people of diplomacy. What are some of the practical, can any of you provide some thoughts on some of the practical, concrete ways that the people of the United States and the people of Iran might join together to promote mutual understanding and harmony and encourage their leaders to behave in a more mature and constructive way? Nobel Peace Prize right here. Washington.
I think the first thing is the awareness of people that in the world's platform, we talk about sovereignty. Sovereignty for what? Okay, what's her name? Garrett, that's the Council of Foreign Relations, the expert on the collapse of public health systems. You know, what virus respects sovereignty and increasingly whether it's climate or whatever. So it's the interdependence. Some people have heard this. We do have a disease that is worse than HIV/AIDS, and if you think so quickly that the likelihood of finding a permanent vaccine is limited. But there are some things you can take to reduce the degree of infection. But you have to apply it every day, every morning, and every evening. What's the name of the disease? The name of the disease is I really don't need you. And that virus is mutated into the most intimate relationships of family, of marriage, of friendship. I really don't need you. When things don't go my way or the highway. Now, as long as you have that kind of mentality, as long as you really think, if I live in Milford County, North Carolina, and I got mine, I don't need to worry about yours. So somehow or another, we have to begin to educate each other that we need somebody in Isfahan. Now that's hard because in this society, if I say I need you, I'm showing I'm vulnerable. And the West wasn't won by vulnerability. I was showing vulnerability. So I would say that the first step is recognize, change the consciousness that we're so interconnected, I need you. because I got to learn your language. I got to at least learn your songs. And it's beginning at that level that you begin to build a kind of consensus so that when you find a decision maker in a state of wandering in the paths of delusion and telling you that we're going to preempt the world by blowing up whatever, a group of people say, you're crazy, this man needs help. And have the courage to say, that doesn't make any sense. Today, we have people who say, I'm not engaged, or they are afraid, including elected officials, to say, that simply doesn't make sense. Cass Barber Lee from Berkeley, California, the only one who stood up in terms of our debate on Iran, and she was still about it. I mean, that's the essence of democracy and what we vote. So, the first thing is to change the consciousness of your dependents, and then proceed. If you need somebody, let them know. And what can we do together?
Really, the body of mankind is brought into the emergency. There's swelling down the neck, there's bloodshot eyes, and we try to deal with every symptom in the body. Bloodstream is infected. So there is a bloodstream disease here. Now, I can, from my own traditional background, spiritual background, I know that in 1868, Baha'i spoke about two: collective security and economic justice. I think sovereignty today, frankly, with all due respect, is a fetish. There's no such thing. Finish. We are dependent on each other, whether we like it or we don't. And if we are going to survive, we will survive together, or we're going to vanish together. There is no way out. And then I think that this whole issue is going back to collective security, justice. Justice brings unity, unity brings peace. You cannot reverse this formula. You have to stop it. And finally, let me quote an American poet who understood this whole concept. Unfortunately, he was ostracized. They thought he was a communist. He was a poet laureate at one time. His name is Edward Markham. I drew a circle. He drew a circle and shot me out. A renegade, a heretic, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. Where is the circle of unity, of love, that we can draw everybody in? This is something we have to work on. And I believe this is the first duty of diplomacy.
Yeah, just a quick comment. It's hard to imagine how Americans as a people and Iraqis as a people could work together independent of the coalition provisional authority or whatever the coalition forces. There's one area where some Americans, I think, may be moved to speak on behalf of the Iraqi people, and that is the granting of visas and expediting visas for translators and people who supported the American effort, coalition effort in Iraq, and are being stonewalled by our own processes because they're simply not enough caring about people who are in danger because they helped us. That could seize the imagination over simple justice in Americans, and it's not that easy because there's a lot of prejudice against Islam in our country, and for our hearts to reach out to Muslims is a bit of a stretch. We're not quite ready to do that, but people who work for us and risk their lives for us and can't get a damn visa because, frankly, the highest level doesn't care that much, and the lower and middle level, Homeland Security is terrified of letting more terrorists who work for us as translators into the country. So maybe that is one way, a limited way, but it's something would strike people in their hearts, and frankly, that's what we're talking about all along.
I thought you said Iran, not Iraq.
I did say Iraq, but I told the Iraqis
But
that
I like
I have to move it.